CFB Paint back with you for our Week 6 preview pod. We're recording this on Monday, so as we go through lines and look at the week to come, keep that in mind if there are major changes with injuries or things that may happen. But we're going to go through some of the key matchups this week and say where we think things are going to go. Do we think teams are going to cover the spread, point totals? Before we do that, we've got a little bit of reconciling to do with our past calls, and I think I have the worst of this, but let's start off with somebody who did a little bit better than me. We'll start off Steve and Cort if you want to follow him with yours.
Yeah, so I mistakenly last week said, I've got 11 picks, so I will either have a winning week or a losing week. I actually had 12, but fortunate for me, we did have a winning week. We didn't split it. 7 and 5. Here we go. I'll rattle them off for you real quick. Oh, I've got them here on my phone with actually what happened. So Utah +3 at Oregon State. Never had a chance. BYU, I said -2.5. Again, I think I just misread the line on that game. When we called it, BYU was a short underdog. By the time the game happened, they were a 1-point favorite. So moved in our direction. But I said BYU +2.5 versus Cincinnati. That one covered. UF 2.5 at Kentucky. What a joke. I'm just now going to blindly fade UF on the road. Clemson -7 at Syracuse. Pretty easy cover. Penn State at Northwestern over 46 points. Yes, thank you, second half Penn State, for showing up. UGA at Auburn under 47.5. Yes, they had 47 points exactly. So that one sweated out toward the end. Oregon -27 at Stanford. Easy money. Yes, thank you. Iowa State at Oklahoma under 48.5. This one actually hit the over before halftime. I think it was like 6 minutes before halftime. They'd already gone over that number. So way off on that one. That one's disgusting. Notre Dame at Duke under 51. Felt like I had a perfect read on this game as well. Got that one to go. Bama -14.5 at Mississippi State. That one cashed. Last two that I had, Washington -17.5 at Arizona, did not cash. Here's the one that I'm like weird and conflicted about. Memphis -3.5 versus Boise State. Boise State, did you guys see any of that game? Boise State up 17-0 on Memphis. Memphis comes roaring back, is up by 2 scores multiple times in the second half, and then lets Boise backdoor cover. They scored to go up, I think, go up 10 again with like 6 minutes left, and then they don't play any defense. Boise State scores a touchdown and gets the cover, so the 3.5 doesn't cash on the Memphis game. I can't really complain about it though, because one of the things that they had to, in order to get that, they had a blocked field goal returned for a touchdown early in that game that kind of jump started Memphis. Got a little bit more positive vibes on that sideline, and they ended up I think for the most part outplaying Boise, but just rough one there. But 7 and 5 on the week. I don't know what my total. I'll need to add up my total for the year, but we are positive, and we've had 3 positive weeks in a row. Am I saying, is that right? I was losing week last week. Sorry. So 3 of the last 4 since we started doing this. 3 weeks have been winners, and so like my total is I think going in the right direction. So it's been pretty fun and encouraging.
Utah versus Oregon State. I picked 45.5 under. I think the under was like 28, or total was like 28.
Yeah, 28.
Clemson, I picked them to cover 7 points. They won, but I picked the over 52.5. They only had 45 or 52, or so. Yeah, only had 45. In the second quarter, it looked like it was going to cover, and then all of a sudden he died, and I was like, oh, great, this is not nice. Georgia, I picked to cover 14.5. They lost. They didn't look to cover that. They won. Michigan, you guys made fun of me a little bit for this one. Michigan with Nebraska 18 covering, and the over, Michigan covering it themselves, over 41. I'm happy about that one.
Nice.
Texas, -17, covered. LSU, I picked -3. They did not cover. It was this close. It was off the hands to cover. Good night. Anyway. Oregon, -27. They covered. You guys mocked me for the Oklahoma game, -20. They covered by 30. Or they covered the game. They won by 30. Bama covered 14.5. I missed on Washington not beating Arizona by 17.5. And then I picked Georgia State to beat. I can't think of who it is now off the top of my head.
Coastal?
No, it wasn't Coastal. Coastal played somebody else. But it was a 1.5 point victory, and they ended up losing actually that game. So It's a bummer. And yeah, so I go 8-5 for the week. And I really regret Steven talking me out of Maryland, Indiana. I don't think we talked about this on the game in the actual pod. He was like, "Oh, Indiana's defense is great," and I'm like, "I think Maryland will cover this," and they blew Indiana out. So I wish I'd picked that one, but if you don't put the money down, it doesn't count. Oh wait, none of these count. Never mind. Anyways, go on.
Billy Napier, scared money don't make money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm recounting, and I
Go ahead, sorry, Brian.
I had counted wrong. I thought I was negative on the week, but that's only because I put a incorrect mark in a loss column, where it should have been a win column. I'm 8-7 on the week, so
Ooh.
fairly positive. I took Utah to cover the +3, not close. BYU I took on the +2.5 and made that one. Clemson -7, got the right one on that. I also had the Georgia Auburn under 47.5, where they got to 47. Which is excellent. I found, as Steve was going through, I realized we were on a lot of the same of these point totals. USC to cover at 22.5. That did not happen. Penn State Northwestern on the over 46. Got that one. I had Kansas to cover against Texas. That was a big point spread, but Jaden Daniels didn't play and didn't matter, so I didn't get that one. Michigan to cover. I did not mock you, Corey, because I took them as well for the -18, and they get the win there. Steve might have mocked us, but we knew what we're doing. That was the first time Michigan covered this year, I think. Georgia's still yet to at this point. LSU to cover -3. That did not happen. Notre Dame Duke under 51. Got that one. Alabama to cover -14.5, and Alabama Miss State under 48.5. So they came in at 47, I believe. Or no, 57? No, that's it. I had it backwards on the win-loss. I am 7-8. I was wondering where my tallies were wrong. They're over. I think they were 57 on the game. South Carolina, Tennessee over 62. They scored 61, so I get an L on that one. And then I took Washington to cover at -17.5, and the Washington Arizona over at 69.5, both of which were losers, putting me at 7-8, like I had originally thought, but just the different wins, different losses than I thought before. The only negative one on the week, so hopefully you're following the other two. With that, we're going to dive straight into this week, and we're going to skip some of our Wednesday action. If you're a real junkie, you'll be watching those games, but we're going to move to teams who've done a little bit more and are doing a little bit more this season. We'll start off and just chime in if you've got bets you're interested in or comments you want to give. Sam Houston versus Liberty, -19 for Liberty. The point total, 47.5.
Yeah, I like the Liberty to cover this one. Sam Houston doesn't have an offense. They have an okay defense, but they just don't have an offense. So I think this could be 20-0 even. I'd be tempted to look at the under. I know that for whatever reason, I skew towards unders, so I'm going to stay away from that. But give me Liberty to cover the spread on Thursday.
I'm in the same boat, taking Liberty to cover the -19. Corey, any thoughts?
I want to believe in this one, but I'm not there yet, so I'm not going to go.
All right, same night, we've got Western Kentucky versus Louisiana Tech. Western Kentucky is 6-point favorites, point total 59.5. I'm staying away from this one. I don't know about you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm not touching that.
I'm not. It's not going to be official play for me, but I think the over is in play there. Again, Western Kentucky's got a pretty good offense. It's maybe not everything we thought it might be with Austin Reed as the QB, and Louisiana Tech, Sonny Cumbie, offensive oriented coach, and I just can see this one getting into that wild shootout range where this game is played in the upper 40s or low 50s, and 60 seems like a low number for me. So something I'll keep an eye on, see if I really got the right read on those teams, but I just don't think there's going to be a ton of defense played, but not an official play for me.
All right. I think good analysis of what we'll see. Should be a fun one on Thursday. That's not this may not be a Power 5 team, but don't sell it short. Could be a good time.
Right.
The next day, Friday, we've got an okay slate. We've got Kansas State versus Oklahoma State. Kansas State 10.5 point favorites. 55 is the point total. I'll jump in on this one. I'm going to take Kansas State to cover. I think there's a decent chasm between these two teams. I think they can, 11 points, 12 points, 13 points. That's probably where I expect this to be. So I'll take
It's
Kansas
in
State.
Stillwater, right?
It is.
And South Alabama beat them by more than that spread in Stillwater, right? I'm right there with you.
Also going to take that one.
Oh,
Not a lot of faith
All
from
right.
us in Mike Gundy's men, but they haven't given us a lot of reason to. So that seems fair.
They did win last week, didn't they?
Oh, I'd have to double check that.
I'm checking
You
it
want
right
to check
now.
on that for me? But yeah,
Oh,
I think
no, they lost 34-27 to Iowa State.
yeah. See, it's who Iowa State. I'm sure their players are joining us for this betting podcast. So, we'll
Ooh,
keep
got
things
him.
rolling. Still in the Friday slate, we've got Nebraska at Illinois. Illinois, 3.5-point favorites. 44.5 is the point line. I'm gonna go ahead and take the under on the points.
Yes.
This one seems easy to me. I could be out of my mind, but this seems like a really easy
This
play.
is a 13-10 game, right? Like, I don't trust either of these teams to score, and yeah, this whole like Bryan and I are somehow of the same mind thing just keeps happening. So it extends apparently to how we look at college football versus the spread and point totals. So I am also on that under. Also, I don't know if we did this before, so I want to just chime in real quick, like time stamping this. We're recording this on October 2nd, so Monday night. Again, this will be released later in the week, probably Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, somewhere in that ballpark. So some of these may have even taken place by the time it gets posted. I don't, not putting pressure on our publishing team to do that. But just so that you know that lines will probably move. There may be clarity on injury statuses that we don't have right now. So those sorts of things will not be considered in this. So keep that in mind. Thanks.
Opposite of you guys, I'm going to take the over. I agree. I think these offenses can't play, but I also think these defenses can't play. So I think this makes a very interesting game.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. I like the close point spread there. Could be very fun, but like who knows what type of sloppy this game could end up being. If you're up for that type of game, which I always am. Good games on Friday for you as well as Thursday. But we'll see. That's a good place to get some distance between us, Corey, going the opposite direction there. I like it. We'll jump right into Saturday, and we've got some ranked matchups coming up. One that isn't ranked, but almost is. It's Maryland at Ohio State. So Maryland, one of the first teams out as far as the AP poll is concerned, but still undefeated on the season. Ohio State are the 18-point favorites. Point total 55.5. Any thoughts on this one?
Give me Maryland to cover.
All right.
Oh.
Care to elaborate?
Tagovailoa had a good game last year and had a good game this last week. I don't think this Ohio State offense is as overly potent as they want it to be. They have the good receivers, but they haven't been able to put points on the board against many teams. And I think this team can. I think Maryland can hang 20 on this team, and I think that they'll probably lose 35-20. I get Notre Dame didn't score that many, but Sam Hartman can't pass the ball down the field like Tagovailoa can. So
I'll be honest, I'm very tempted to do the same. I'm not going to, but that exact score was what occurred to me. Is I don't think Ohio State's going to score more than 35, and I thought chances of that offense scoring less than 20, I think, are not crazy high. So it makes sense to play for me. I just don't have the courage that you do. Steve, any thoughts on this one?
I mean, it's. I guess I don't know what source we're using for these lines because I'm looking right now at DraftKings and Maryland is a 19.5-point underdog. So
yeah, we're looking at different places.
Okay, so either way, again, it's not important. Again, we're not placing any of these bets, right? Like it's just kind of a way for us to view through games. I don't have a good feel for this one. Maryland's played decent defense most of the year, but they haven't really played a formidable offense, and I wouldn't consider Ohio State at current to really be a formidable offense, but it has the pieces to be that. So it's on the road for Maryland. I just wonder how well that offense travels. So I don't know. Like I think, yeah, this is a stay away game for me. But like, I think you guys are on the right side of it. I think.
Yeah, to clarify, I think Corey's on the right side of it. I'm too
true. Yeah, you're
too
chicken with me.
lukewarm. Yeah. But then we do have a ranked matchup that we want to look at. Questionable whether this team should be ranked or not, but LSU, 2-loss LSU plays at undefeated Missouri, number 23 versus number 21. LSU is a 6.5-point favorite, 63 points, the point total. Thoughts on this one?
Give me Missouri in the points.
All right.
I mean, is there going to be a better environment than Missouri's going to play at home than hosting LSU, knowing you have a chance to deal the knockout punch on their season? Not to mention, I like Eli Drinkwitz as a play caller and particularly throwing the football. And we know that LSU cannot stop people who throw the football well. They don't get after the passer well. Brady Cook's playing good football. Maybe this is a get right game for LSU. I don't see it. I see Missouri's defense stopping the run. Uh, it's a tough ask to cover LSU's receivers, but I'm not asking you to beat them. I'm asking you to keep up and keep up offensively, and I think you can do that. Plus with a home environment, so give me Mizzou to cover. I don't know if I like them to win the game outright, but I do think it's a game that's played probably within a field goal.
And along your same thought lines, I think both of these teams are going to score. I think that we're looking at a 40-30 game. Give me the over on this 63. I'll take the over.
That might be the smarter play, frankly, but.
And I'm gonna copycat you, Corey. I'm definitely taking the over on this one. I think LSU can score. I think they can't stop people. That doesn't always mean that the over is going to happen because Vegas knows that as well. But I'm in the same boat. Biggest matchup of the week, we've got the Red River Shootout, Red River Rivalry, Red River Showdown. Has all those names. This one's is this one being played in the Cotton Bowl, or are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the actual Cotton Bowl, not the Cotton Bowl in Jerry's World.
Right. That was the question, basically. 12 Oklahoma, number 3 Texas. Texas 5-point favorites. 59.5 is the point line. We got a call on this?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
So Oklahoma's defense and Oklahoma's defensive performance this year has been significant. Texas also has a good defense. I'm going to take the under on this of the 59.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not loving that pick. I'm leaning towards it, but then I'm give me OU. Give me OU.
You described this game perfectly, and then you chose the wrong outcome. My horns can pierce the sky. Give me the Longhorns to cover that 5-point spread. I agree with you. I think the under is the move here, but you know me and my unders, so I'm going to stay away from that one. I think you're right. Actually, I'm going to make it a play too. I'm going to join you on that. Under 59.5, but we have got different people when it comes to the actual point spread of the game. So Texas to cover the 5-point spread. Bri?
I'm not going to touch the points, but I am going to take Texas to cover the 5-point spread as well. Classic Bryan and Steve agreeing on something, but also me not being bold enough to go with the points. If I had to guess, I think you guys are on the right side of that, but I could also see, what was it last year, 49-0? So that's only, a couple touchdowns from Oklahoma away from going over on this one. So
True.
Very different teams, very different situation. But yeah, I'm so excited for this game, honestly. This is one of the big ones that you hoped you'd get to this point in the season where they're both undefeated and you get to see them at full strength, which they both appear to be. Yeah, that's a treat for college football fans. Make sure you're tuning in for that one. Is that 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
I believe it is, yeah. So 10 a.m. our time, noon kickoff Eastern. So get your day started off right. Make sure you don't miss that one to get it going. We're going to keep things moving along. Number 13, Washington State plays at UCLA. UCLA favorites in this one, 3.5 points. 59 points is the point total. What do we think?
Does anybody have a clue why UCLA would be favored in this game?
So yeah, this one to me, I think it's a matchup problem along the lines of scrimmage for Washington State. I think is the thought process from odds makers. For me, I feel like you've seen enough from them that they're going to be able to hold their own against Wisconsin and against Oregon State. Like, the only thing I can see is that, has Washington State played a true road game yet?
I don't think so.
That's the one thing that I think we're missing here. So let me just look that up real quick, because I'm right there with you. Like, I feel like the wrong team is favored here. But that's the one question is, okay, they've played, so they played on the road at Colorado State. That is their only that is their only road game of the year. Sorry, my voice is starting to go. So that's the one thing is like, but what kind of road environment are you getting at the Rose Bowl? You know, it's not exactly an intimidating environment. It's just more like travel. You know, that's really more what I see happening here is it's more the travel, the uncertainty. I don't think the Rose Bowl is a particularly intimidating environment to go into. It's a beautiful one. It's super scenic, and you know, like I've always wanted to go watch a game there, but I don't think it's known for it being, you know, a particularly tough place for road teams to have success, except for like, you know, maybe Texas A&M blowing a giant lead several years back. So yeah, I think I'm going to take Washington to cover. I think I like them to win the game outright. It's just it's a line of scrimmage thing. Can they hold up against the run? On defense, are they able to run the ball when they have to on offense? I think they're going to do enough to keep it within that 3.5. So give me Washington State to cover.
I agree with you on that.
Yep, same. Nothing to add. But
they've got the ace at
QB.
Boat. So
yeah. Well, I would just say Dante Moore had struggles recently in carrying the offense. So if the defense can put up some fight to where UCLA is fighting from behind at any point, it could be, I don't know, could make it easily.
It is important to note that UCLA is coming off a bye week, so like they've had extra time to get ready for this one. So we'll see what that means. I think Washington's a team on a mission, or Washington State, excuse me, is a team on a mission. I feel like you've gotten a lot of that attitude from both them and Oregon State. So
yeah,
I think they'll come buttoned up.
Loving those teams so far, and they've been really fun to root for as the teams on the outside looking in from conference alignment. We'll see where they end up going, but two teams that America will pull for you a bit. Moving on, we've got Virginia Tech at Florida State. Florida State 25.5 point favorites, 53 points the point total. I'm gonna go ahead and take the over on the point total. I think Florida State's gonna put up a lot of points. Florida State also has a tendency to struggle a little bit with running quarterbacks, which Virginia Tech very much has. And I think that defense will get gashed for a good bit of yardage, if not a good bit of points as well. So I'll go over on the 53.
And for that reason, I'm taking Tech to cover the 25.5.
Yeah, I see this playing out more like Corey mentioned. I think with Florida State struggles to run the football, I think this is an opportunity that they're going to try and use to establish the run. So I would almost lean toward the under and VT to cover. I'm not playing either, but I think that's kind of how I see that game playing out. Florida State running the football quite a bit, trying to avoid any unnecessary hits to Jordan Travis. Like, this feels like a get out of the game, get our win and go home sort of a deal for Florida State.
Does Jordan Travis even play in this game?
It's a fair question.
I wouldn't play him.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I'd fight back on that is Florida State, you're trying to establish your mojo just a little bit. You've been dropped each of the past couple of weeks in the polls. I shouldn't say this last week because you didn't play, but the 2 weeks prior, You had the close loss against Boston College. You get dropped another as you have I shouldn't say close loss, close win over Boston College, close win over Clemson. I do think there will be a little bit of a desire to flex your muscle and say we're the same team that you saw beat LSU by 21 in week 1, 28 if you don't include a touchdown that really made it look a little bit closer. I think there'll be a little bit of that in there. I wouldn't take FSU to cover, but I still think they'll put up a decent amount of points. So that's what has me leaning on the over still there. We have Syracuse at UNC. UNC 9-point favorites, 58 points the point total. Thoughts on this one?
Give me UNC to cover. I don't think the Syracuse team is as good as they think that they are. I don't know. That's a big line for stopping Garrett Schrader and that team, but I think UNC puts it together. They've had a bye week, so they're getting ready for it.
Yeah, I don't have a play on this one. I think Corey's on the right side of it. I think it's a home game for North Carolina, right? Yeah. So going on the road after a loss, and where Clemson, I think, kind of gave some other teams that maybe have the personnel to do it the recipe to beat you, where it's like if you can kind of constrict and restrict Garrett Schrader as a runner, and kind of force him to be pass first, and to do so in a way where you're constricting the pocket and pressuring him without allowing rush lanes. I think that's the way to do it. So does UNC have that? I think enough, right? Like some of their defensive line, I think has gotten fat off of some poor offensive line play, or is gotten fat. Well, what I mean by that is like they padded their stats with that. So I'm not sure. I don't feel like strong enough to say like it's an official pick for me, but I do think UNC is going to score. It just comes down to how much does their defense stop Syracuse, and I think it should be fine. But Syracuse has gone on the road in the past and been, a pretty plucky sort of underdog. So that's what gives me a little bit of pause there.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay away from this one. I'm excited to watch it though. Syracuse, Clemson really outplayed them, but they didn't look like a team that was incompetent when they played Clemson. If that makes sense. Like I feel like they played a decent game. They gave themselves okay opportunities at times. It was just a talent thing. And so when they're not beating themselves and they have that quarterback who can kind of cause some problems, they're exciting any week. So I'm really interested.
Too.
Over for that, over the 58.
Yeah. You guys are talking into that. I think Syracuse, at least scores on them. So.
Yeah, it's Syracuse's offense against UNC's defense that I'm most excited for. I feel like I know how the other side of the field or the other side of the ball is going to play out. I'm unsure if UNC is going to be able to stop it up or if it'll be flowing a little bit both ways. Another big game this week: Alabama at Kyle Field, Texas A&M. Alabama 2.5-point favorites. Not very big. 50 points the point total. Thoughts on this one?
I'm not touching this one. I don't. Jimbo Fisher plays them always hard, tight. They've got a new quarterback that could be potentially a lot better. They could potentially really easily exploit Alabama. At the same time, Nick Saban was coaching his butt off this last week, so I'm not going near this one.
Like,
he's tempted to.
I'm conflicted too. I mean, for all the same reasons that you just said, right? Like, A&M just always knows what time it is when it's time to play Alabama, right? They just are locked in and ready to play when they've been severely overmatched in 2 of the last 3, and got the outright win in one of those. They always play them tough. I don't know. Something tells me that Bama. Like, I'm not going to make it a play, but I think Bama covers. I do. I think they're rounding into form, and that form is not what we have come to identify as like the standard for Alabama teams. Nonetheless, like I think about this, like what needs to happen in order for Texas A&M to win this game. well, you have to beat Bama down the field. Well, I like Alabama secondary against most of Texas A&M's wide receivers. Like it's a good group of wide receivers. It's a really good secondary they're going against too. Um, I like the defensive line matchup for Alabama against Texas A&M's offensive line. Uh, I like really. I think what I'm tempted to take here is the under because I don't think Alabama's going to score a whole ton of points. I like Texas A&M's defensive front. I think that they have a secondary that you can exploit, but I don't know if you have the quarterback to exploit it if you're Alabama. So, in fact, I've just talked myself into it. What's the total that we said? We listed out
50.
50. Okay, at DraftKings it's 48.5. Just as another data point here, but I will take the extra line value that we're looking at. Again, I don't know whatever that other source is. Give me the under 50.
All right. I'm not touching it. This to me screams upset. I just think matchup-wise, you have enough defensive talent that you can, and I don't think anyone can really corral Jalen Milroe, but kind of corral him. You have good wide receiver play. You need it to be excellent on the day, but you have it good enough to where it can win. And then I always factor in Jimbo Fisher. I don't know what it is, but he gets up for these games. Texas A&M has looked good outside of that Miami game, and Miami might be real good.
Yeah.
we haven't seen them play anyone else except for Texas A&M, but they haven't given you reasons to doubt them yet. So I'm not going to make any play on this one, but I'm very intrigued because to me this one screams Texas A&M pulling the win at home. We'll keep it rolling along. Another ranked matchup. Number 20 Kentucky at Georgia. Georgia 15-point favorites, 48.5 the point total. I'm gonna go ahead and take Kentucky to cover. Georgia hasn't covered yet. I might just bet against them until they do. But I think I don't think this should be a high scoring affair, which makes them winning by multiple scores a lower chance to me. I just think 15 is too high. Like if this were 10.5, I would have a really hard time. I think within 2 scores, yeah, super possible. I'm gonna stick with the Wildcats on this one.
I got to go opposite against you. I think this Devin Leary can't really throw the ball very well. I don't think this offense is set up to be super successful, and I think the run was fortunate that it hit Florida and unfortunate that it hit Florida for Kentucky's sake because Georgia's not going to be surprised by it. Yeah, give me Georgia to cover.
I'm with Corey on this one. I think if you're Georgia, the job is take away the run. I feel like the offensive line of Kentucky versus the defensive line of Georgia favors Georgia. I think the backers are also, again, maybe not what they used to be, but when it comes to just playing the run and making Devin Leary beat you with his arm and with his wide receiving core, which is a little suspect, this one just feels like Georgia's going to cover that spread. So give me Georgia to cover.
Yeah, it's a matter of how much, in my head, how much Brock Bowers goes off. I
Fair.
and can Kentucky get themselves a defensive touchdown or a turnover in an important area?
Yeah, and Mark Stoops is. Man, you're talking me back now the other way. That's why it's a good line.
Yeah, we'll see. Georgia hasn't given me reason to be confident in them, and
No, not at all.
they don't have major obstacles in their way on their schedule. But I'm excited. I'm very excited for this matchup. Very excited to watch it play out. It does help that it is in Athens, but yeah, we'll see. Another ranked matchup, we've got Notre Dame at Louisville. Notre Dame 6.5-point favorites, 52.5 the point total. I'm going to go ahead and take Notre Dame to cover. They've played a lot of close games. I think this Louisville team is ranked because they haven't played people who are very good. And I think there's going to be a notable difference between these two teams on the field. Despite the troubles Notre Dame has had scoring, I think they'll win by more than 6.5.
So, go ahead, Steve.
My big thing with this is like how many games this to me feels like a trap game for Notre Dame for a few reasons. you're coming off of two super hard fought wins, or super hard fought games, I should say. One, a disappointing loss against Ohio State. You get back up, you turn it around quickly, and win a slugfest against Duke. Um, and now you've got this away game, and then you host USC. Like, it just feels like it's a dangerous game. Cardinal Stadium's not an easy place to play, particularly when that team is being successful, and Louisville is all in on the Jeff Brom era, as they should be. I think he's doing a great job, and again, the schedule plus some of the personnel he's been able to assemble in year one is leading to they're 5-0. Like, they're doing all that you can do against the schedule that they've been given, and that's win. I mean, they could probably win by more. Particularly this last week was maybe not super convincing. That's the only thing that gives me pause. Like, on paper, on a neutral site, like, where Notre Dame's not coming off of a couple of emotional games, I think this line would be very low. But I don't know. I think Notre Dame will win by more, but I don't feel convinced enough to win. Just knowing where it sits in their schedule, it just has potential for them to get down early and to just be kind of both physically and emotionally exhausted, and maybe not quite have the same the same mental fortitude to fight it out and to get a cover there. So I think Notre Dame wins. I do think they cover. Not a play for me for those reasons.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, I could see Louisville coming up to pop and scare this Notre Dame team. I could see Notre Dame winning it easily. I'm not touching it because I could see it go either way.
All right, we've got number 2 Michigan at Minnesota. Michigan 20.5-point favorites, 47.5 the point total. I'm gonna let y'all go first, and then I'll let you know what I'm doing.
I was gonna say, like, this Minnesota team's not good. They put up points against I think it was Louisiana this last week, but they're not that good. But at the same time, a 20-point win is high. And they don't, and Michigan doesn't tend to score that much. I'm not going to catch this one.
I am. Michigan's covering that spread.
Good for you.
Yeah, I think they've got it. I'm a believer now. I mean, they've always been doing what they had to. I think now that we're in conference play, I think they hit a different gear. So give me the Wolverines to cover that. I know it's a big point spread, particularly on the road. I don't see this one being. I don't see it being one that the team's going to have to sweat out. Like, it's a night game. It'll be a big environment. You go up 14-0, or you go up by 14 points in the first half, and it becomes a much less intimidating environment. So
I'm going to take the over 47.5. I think Michigan scores into the mid to high 30s at least, and that puts you real close already. And if Minnesota is able to get close to that 20 mark as far as only losing by 20, then that'll put you way over. So taking that, not going backing Michigan or Minnesota to cover. We'll keep things rolling. We've got Arkansas at Ole Miss, number 16. Ole Miss, 10.5-point favorites, 62.5 is the point total. Thoughts on this one?
I don't know if I have a ton of thoughts on this one. I'm not sure what to make of it. It just feels like historically this is the game where Ole Miss lays an egg, right? Like, so it's like very soft factors would say, like, okay, that's maybe Arkansas could do something, but also I don't have any faith in Arkansas, so no play for me. But yeah, it's just, and these two have played some bangers lately. I don't know if you, I guess I can't remember specifically the outcome of last year's game, but 2 years ago they had an overtime game where Sam Pittman went for 2 in the win in the bottom half of the first overtime. Didn't end up getting it. That was an awesome game though. So hopefully something similar to that is what plays out. I just don't know. Arkansas is not very good. So I think I lean toward Ole Miss covering. They're Ole Miss covering. They're at home, but it just feels like a letdown spot for Ole Miss after you've just played Bama and then you've just played LSU. and you split that, and now it's like, oh, now we can exhale, and that's when teams get bit. So I don't know. It'll be a fun one though.
Corey, any thoughts on this one?
No, I honestly agree with Steve 100%. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, same. Wild Wild SEC West, as Steve talked about last podcast. I want nothing to do with this one, except to watch it on Saturday. Georgia Tech at Miami. Miami 21-point favorites, 59.5 point total. Another one that I don't want anything to do with. I don't know about, and I don't think it's. I feel like I kind of know who these teams are. I just think the lines are set really well, and I don't feel decisively on either side of it.
So other than A&M, Miami hasn't played anybody. They're coming off a bye week. You play Georgia Tech, and then you're looking forward to UNC. I think this is a game that kind of looked past a little bit. Haynes King is a good quarterback. I think he can do some damage against this team. At least keep their defense a little bit offset. So give me Georgia Tech to cover.
Interesting. I don't think you're wrong in terms of it being a look ahead spot. My thing is that you had a full bye week to rep North Carolina and then get refocused on Georgia Tech.
North Carolina is after Georgia Tech.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like you had a bye week ahead of this game for Miami. You'd gone full North Carolina prep mode during that bye week. And then the week between this Georgia Tech game and North Carolina is just, okay, remember these concepts that we practiced 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Miami has only not covered the spread once this year. So they covered against Temple. They won 41-7 on a 22.5 point spread. They beat Texas A&M. They won that outright. They were 2.5 point favorite or 2.5 point underdogs, and they won by 15. Miami of Ohio, they had a 16.5 point spread. They won by 35. The only one they didn't cover was Bethune-Cookman. It was 53.5 point spread, and they were at 48-7, and they emptied the bench, right? Also, I think, I think there are factors in that game that they didn't want to embarrass Bethune-Cookman. I think there's some crossover on the staffs, if memory serves me right. So, with that being said, I think Miami covers. I think this is a really good team. I'm almost tempted to take the under in this one too, because I don't see Georgia Tech scoring a whole lot. I think Miami's defense has been like quietly very, very good, and people maybe don't realize it. Like Texas A&M scored 33 points.
Yeah, 48-33. But also
33
gave them 2 touchdowns.
In what way?
Like the terrible punt and the interception really low at the goal or in the red zone or something like that.
Yeah, but my point is that they're what I'm driving at is that Miami's defense I think is better than people are realizing. That 33 points Texas A&M, like some of that's the first 10 were on their offense/special teams, like because they had a muffed punt and I think a turnover that turned into 10 points really early in that game. So defense really isn't to be blamed for those. I don't see Georgia Tech scoring a whole lot of points. I don't see Miami scoring 60. But yeah, I'm tempted to look at that under as well, just because I think Miami covers, but I think this has more of a 42-10 feel than anything else. So
if it is a 42-17 field, then you're not covering.
Yeah, well, I'm just that's why it's not an official play for me, but I think under is the right move there. But give me Miami to cover the 21.
It's funny. Corey almost talked me in, and then Steven almost talked me in, and that's how I know I should stay out entirely for sure. Fresno State at Wyoming. Fresno State 6.5 point favorites, 47 straight 47 for the point total on this one. Can't talk. I don't have a play on this one. Honestly, I've watched Wyoming play when they've played big teams, which has been twice this year. And Fresno State haven't paid attention to nearly enough. So it's just one of those situations where I don't know how, one offensive line matches up against another defensive line. There's just not enough for me to go off of. I'm staying away from this.
Yeah, this Wyoming team is good. This Fresno State team is good. That line seems about right. I would expect Fresno to win this, but I would not be surprised if Wyoming pulled it out.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot about Fresno if they really are the team to beat in the Mountain West. If they go on the road to Wyoming, or it's just kind of wonky travel, just because it's not chartering a flight out there. It's a tough place to
I'm
play,
pretty sure
especially
you
like
hitchhike out to Laramie, don't you?
yeah, yeah. So you're gonna need to bring it. So I'm interested in that game. I am not ready to make a play on that one as far as like picking against the spread or against the number there. But yeah, that'll I think tell us a lot about Fresno State. I feel like I know a lot about Wyoming just because they played people so tough. Like they're not an easy out. 6.5 seems like a reasonable line to me.
Yeah, and Wyoming looking for their second really big win in Laramie this year.
Yes.
Already got the one for the opener. It would be a heck of a scene if they get the win over ranked Fresno State here and keep the season rolling the way they have. Oregon State at Cal. Oregon State 9.5-point favorites, 53 points, the point total. I'm going to go ahead and take Oregon State to cover. I just think they'll win by double digits. Plain and simple. I think they've got the quality to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I also could see this Cal team making it a little difficult for this Oregon State team, so I'm not touching this one right now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make a play here. I could see an array of outcomes here. Mostly, yeah, Oregon State. Sorry, Oregon State. I think they're winning pretty much in every scenario that I can run in my head, but it could be one where it's just we get our win, and California's got a pretty good defense. If anything, again, I'm looking at an under here and being like, oh man, I don't. Neither of
Do
these
it.
teams really like to score.
Do it. It's a 21-7 game. Don't worry. Do it.
All right, I'm gonna go with it. Oregon State. Give me Oregon State. They're probably gonna win something along the lines of like 24-13, which would have them cover. But just I don't feel like that's the right move. I think under 53. I don't think this game gets played in the 20s. I don't think. Not for both of them.
Yeah, I'd be surprised with that too. I think I see Oregon State scoring. I don't know, like that Utah defense, banged up as it might be, is very talented, and putting up 21 on them. I get that this isn't how it goes week to week in college football, where you perform the same each week. But if they're performing that well against Cal, I think they're well in the 30s somewhere. Last game that we want to go over, unless you two have any to add on, Arizona at USC. USC 22-point favorites, the line at 72. These are two offenses that can score. These are teams with tools. Steve, you said this would be really fun if this were in the desert. I don't know if you think it's still as fun in Southern California.
Yeah, I think Noah Fifita is still likely to start. I don't think Jaden Delores. It didn't sound like it was just like a 1 week that he's going to be out, but I could be wrong on that. Either way, I don't love USC's defense. Arizona's offense is not bad. I don't. I feel like these are like part of it. It's like as a home team, I don't feel like Vegas is going to put a number that's less than 20 on this, just because I mean the likelihood that USC just scores a boatload of points and runs away from someone, it always will exist. I'm not making a play on this. I'd be again more intrigued if this was in Tucson at night. Um, but who knows? Who knows? Crazy things have happened, and maybe they see something on the tape from Colorado this last week and how they got back into the game. Again, I dismissed some of that, but it still might be something where there's concepts that they're using where it's like, oh, if they would have used those earlier in the game, maybe the story plays out differently. I really respect Jed Fish as a coach and particularly as an offensive game planner. I, I'm not ready to play on it. I really could see any sort of outcome. I could see Arizona making this game and making the Trojans sweat. I could see USC winning by 35. So I don't see a path to victory for Arizona State unless there's a bunch of turnovers, and Caleb Williams is very good at avoiding them for the most part. So I mean, USC is going to win. I don't know who's going to cover the spread here, so I've rambled enough on this.
Give me Arizona to cover.
Ooh,
I don't
I
know
like that team.
how likely it is, but why not?
I like that team.
I'm jumping in the same boat. I got Arizona covering. As I've been going through this, I've realized I'm betting on the road team a lot, and maybe I'm not giving enough attention to the home field advantage and the difference that makes, because it does make a difference. But I just think a lot of teams are able to keep it close-ish on USC. Last week, I picked USC to cover their 22.5-point favorites. This week, I'm going against them. Oh, and I picked against Arizona. I had Washington covering against them. Both of those ones backwards. Maybe I'm overcorrecting, but I'm going Arizona to cover against USC in Southern California. That's the final matchup we have that we're looking at. Any other ones that you guys wanted to point out?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Go ahead.
So, and Steve, check these on DraftKings because I'm checking them out another place. So, Boston College versus Army. The line I'm seeing 3.0 and over 51.
Yep.
Okay, give me Boston College on that one and the over.
Boston College and the over. All right.
I like that quarterback. I think he's rounded into shape and form. They put up 27 against Virginia. They put up how much against Florida State? Quite a bit. And then they struggled a little bit.
29, is that right? 31-29 was the score?
Yeah, so I mean, and Army's a good team. So I just think that both these offenses will score. Toledo versus Massachusetts. Are you seeing Toledo with a line of favored 19?
Yes.
Give me that, Toledo. Clemson versus Wake Forest, favored by 21.
Oh, whoops, hang on, sorry. Yes, 21.
Give me that. And then Kansas at UCF. Or no, UCF at Kansas. Kansas favored by 2.0, 2 points.
And you're taking Kansas?
I'm taking Kansas. Is that what you're saying, that line as well?
Yeah, they're 2.5.
2.5? I'll take the 2.5 anyway. And then Colorado versus ASU. I believe the line's 4. Give me Colorado.
Yeah, I'm going to get in on that one as well.
Yeah, that was one I wanted to bring up on this one. Maybe not necessarily to make a play on it. Just because it's the desert. Weird things happen there. We've talked about this. And Colorado, have they played a road game yet? Oregon, and they got stomped.
They still put up in that game.
What?
How much did they put in that game? Oh, they only put 7.
6.
6, yeah.
Yeah.
Was TCU not a road game?
Oh, that was. You're right. Good call, Bryan.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know. That line seems interesting. And Arizona State's, again, I was the one giving them credit for the fight they put up against Southern Cal. Did they have a bye week this past week?
I don't know.
I'll double check that.
You can check that, but like that's the one thing where it's like, okay, if they have a little extra time to game plan for something, they run the football pretty well, and Colorado doesn't stop the run very well, so you could play keep away and just make sure that anytime Colorado has possession, they need a score because they're just going to have limited possessions. So I can see a path to Arizona State keeping this close, but I tend to lean with you guys on that one. I won't join you on that pick though. What was the other one I was going to bring up? Or were you done, Corey?
Thank you.
Okay. Here's the one: Iowa and Purdue.
Steve's taking the under.
No, I'm not taking the under. I don't know. Like, do you trust Iowa to beat anyone nowadays? And now they're going to a backup QB. Like, I don't know. It is one that I probably am not going to play. I just wanted to highlight it. It's like a 2.5-point game. Purdue's playing better than they have been. Like,
that win over Illinois was surprising.
Yeah.
In the fashion that they did it. I did not see that coming.
So, like, this is one that I'm not going to play, like, but if you were going to take some Illinois on the money line to, like, win the game and get, like, more favorable odds than minus 110, that would be very tempting. So, like, that would be me, like, just with, like, again, not calling it, but, like, if you wanted to do that, we'll revisit that one after this one, but I think that's there's some value
Hey,
on
Steve, where's that
Purdue
game?
on the money line.
Over under on that one.
It's at 39.
And where is it?
Oh, it's in Iowa City. So the Hawkeyes are at home, which is something to consider when looking at that game.
Is
But
insane. I mean, they scored another 13 points for them this week. Well, defense slash special teams.
Yeah, good old fashioned
right,
beamer ball playing by Ferentz, man.
Yeah. What were the couple of others that I just saw, like spreads that were a little surprising to me?
NC State favored against Marshall. Think that's interesting.
I mean, like the only thing that to me is surprising there is like, okay, like it's MJ Morris's first start. What happens there?
Yeah.
TCU favored on the road at Iowa State is a little bit surprising to me. Favored 6.5. Again, it's maybe not. I'm not making a play on that. There was one more that I scrolled past that. Oh, it was like maybe we talk about this one real quick. Vanderbilt, Florida.
I was thinking that same one.
18.5. That's a lot. Like,
yeah,
they didn't cover that. They didn't cover that for Charlotte. So, 18.5 is a lot of points.
Florida's only
18.5 is a lot of points.
Florida's only scored over 25 twice, and it was against Tennessee and McNeese.
Yeah, I think give me the Doors to cover. I know it's a road game, it's the Swamp, but I think there are a fair amount of fans that are showing up because they want to boo that team. So give me the Doors plus 18.5. Just you don't even have to keep it that close.
We need to find a way to get Florida State to start packing that stadium and just rooting for their opponent when they're terrible.
All right, and that's the last one I'll bring up.
Yeah, last line I'll add in, and this is not one that I'm gonna lock in. Miami of Ohio favored by 10.5 over Bowling Green. Bowling Green, who beat Georgia Tech 38-27 this last week. Also, they're not good. Bowling Green's not a good team, but just I would have thought that projection would have come up a little bit with beating a Power 5 team last week by double digits. Miami of Ohio is still favored there. We'll see how that plays out. Arizona State this last week lost 24-21 at Cal. So we're checking in on that.
Oh, that's right.
So
other than that, that's gonna. What's that?
A bunch. Too many.
I have 19.
19?
Yeah, you came out guns blazing after we went through all the ranked ones.
Yep.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It looks like.
I also have 13 because I do whatever Steven does. No, I do have 13 though.
And I'm already regretting that Vandy pick, but don't let me down.
At least it'll be fun for you to root for. It's always good to root against the Gators.
Yeah, that's why taking the Florida State under or favoring Tech, I'm like, it's not gonna make fun to root for it. I don't really care if I get a loss on that one. That's worth it.
Yeah.
No, that's always like you bet against Florida State. That's just a happiness insurance. At least your bet will be right.
And we need to trademark that.
That's key. Would I pay $20 for every win? You bet I would. Like, you're gonna have to do anything major, but that's worth it by the end of the season, easily. I don't care if all the juice is on the other side. That's worth it. Well, that's gonna do it for our preview. Any last thoughts on the upcoming week or parting shots you haven't been able to get out of your system in the previous pod?
Dude, I'm just excited for this week. This week looks like another good week, and there's going to be a few more that are coming up. So the fact that there's so much parity in this league or in this year is going to make this enjoyable.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the one thing that heading into this week, I don't know if there's another team / coach under more pressure than Brent Venables. People remember that score from last year, and it's going to be a long time before they forget it, especially if you lose 2 in a row. So,
But if you win, they'll forget it.
oh yeah, they'll forgive you if you bounce back and it's like, hey man, they beat us 49-0 last year, and now we won. Like, look at the gap we closed in 12 months. So it is a boom or bust. There's not a whole lot. I think if you're Texas, there's not a whole lot to be gained by beating Oklahoma. There's a lot to be lost.
Because you potentially have to play them again. Now, if I'm Texas, I thought this through. Do I not play how I would play them and just play kind of a very vanilla game? And if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. And then I play them again in the Big 12 championship and make my way into the playoff that way?
I think you try and hand them a loss and hope they pick up a second one somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it. Like, the better place to be, obviously, and you can't control this, but like, when Florida State plays Clemson in week 4, they already have a conference loss, and you're like, oh sweet, if we beat them, it's the nail in the coffin, and we don't have to see them again, or we likely don't. Like, their odds of making that ACC championship game go down dramatically.
Well, especially
So
had the loss against Duke before that too.
that's what I'm saying is, like, with that, where they already have a conference loss, it's like, oh, if we beat them, it might be just game over for them.
Yeah.
And so obviously you don't get that here, but I think that's kind of just the reverse of that, where it's like, all right, obviously you want to win, right? You're not going to sandbag the game for any reason, but like, but does it maybe change the way you play it? I think you put your best foot forward, and that way you can see, like, because if it works, then like, all right, rinse and repeat. But like, what would a defensive coordinator, or what would the opposite coach maybe do to counter this if it was successful the
My
first time?
mind goes back to
to counter
96-97 Florida State, Florida. Florida State beats Florida, and then plays them again in 3 weeks later in the championship and gets smoked. Now that Florida team was a lot more talented than that Florida State team.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they played above their heads the first go around. I think if you play that game 10 times, they probably lose 8 or 9 of them.
Okay.
But point remains, like, you're right. It is one of those things where it's tough to beat a team twice. It's not easy.
Yeah, and I think if ever there was a strategy to hold back at all, that would be for the lesser team to do, which in my opinion is Oklahoma. So you would need kind of the surprise advantage more so. If you're Texas, I think you go and say, we've got better talent. We're going to beat you on our talent twice. So, man, I hope they meet each other. I mean, it's funny because I go into the season hoping, like, I hope these two teams lose every game and don't have any joy in their last season in the Big 12. And now it's like, no, just give me two. Just give me 2 Red River Shootouts. That's all I want. But an awesome week coming up. 4 ranked. Awesome. It'll be unreal. 4 ranked matchups this week, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of really good games, and we're going to keep it here with you the whole way along. Give you the recap on the next week. Catch us on our socials. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, on X, the Everything app, and let us know anything you want us to talk about. Any insights you have, thoughts you have on our commentary. We'd love to interact with you there, and love to bring in anything you're interested in into our shows more frequently. Until next week, we've been CFB Paint. Peace.